She begged, "Don't lift my dress," but the farmhand did and shocked everyone. It was a bright, clear morning on the small, quiet farm. The sun had just risen, spilling golden light over the fields, making the green grass shine like a sea of emerald. Birds chirped happily from the trees at the edge of the farm, and the soft breeze carried the scent of fresh soil and blooming flowers. Today was special. Everyone in the nearby village was coming to the farm for the annual harvest festival. It was the kind of day people waited for all year, full of laughter, fun, and small moments that made life memorable. Clara, a young woman in her early 20s, was getting ready in the farmhouse. She had chosen a light-colored dress for the festival, a soft fabric that moved gently with every step. The dress had little details on it, embroidered flowers along the hem, tiny buttons down the front, and it made her feel a little shy but also happy. She looked at herself in the mirror, brushing a strand of hair from her face, and took a deep breath. She wanted to look nice, but more than that, she wanted to enjoy the day. Festivals were rare for her because she spent most of her time helping on the farm, tending animals and working in the garden. Her family was bustling around as well. Her mother was arranging baskets of fruits and vegetables, making sure everything looked neat and colorful. Her younger brother was running in and out, holding a small wooden toy he had made, laughing at his own jokes. The farmhouse was alive with movement and excitement, the kind of energy that made Clara smile even before she stepped outside. She could hear the distant sounds of people arriving, the chatter of neighbors, the occasional laughter, and the soft creaking of wagon wheels along the dirt road. Outside, the farm had already begun to fill with visitors. Friends and neighbors had come early to set up their booths and displays. Some were showing off fruits and vegetables they had grown themselves, while others had baked goods, homemade crafts, or small handmade toys. Children ran around in circles, trying to catch each other, their giggles mixing with the calls of parents watching nearby. The air smelled sweet and earthy, a mix of fresh bread, ripe apples, and cut grass. Clara could feel her excitement building as she stepped outside, her dress brushing against her legs with each careful step. Not far from her, Tom, the farmhand, was finishing his morning chores. He was a few years older than Clara and had worked on the farm for several seasons. Everyone knew Tom as someone friendly and full of energy. He had a mischievous side, always ready with a joke or a small prank, but he was also reliable when it mattered. Today, he wore a simple shirt and trousers, his sleeves rolled up as he adjusted the hay bales that would mark the area for games and contests. He looked around at the arriving villagers with a cheerful smile, happy to see the excitement of the festival already spreading. Tom noticed Clara as she came out of the house. She looked so different from the usual mornings spent in work clothes, her dress soft and flowing, her hair neatly arranged. He grinned to himself, thinking she seemed nervous and shy, but also glowing with the happiness of being part of something special. He walked over to help carry a small basket of apples to the display area, making sure to give a polite nod as he passed her. Clara smiled back, appreciating his gesture. They had known each other for years. Tom had grown up nearby, and their paths often crossed on the farm, but today felt different. The festival brought a sense of joy and community that made everyone a little closer, even if just for a few hours. As Clara and Tom moved among the preparations, more villagers arrived. People greeted each other warmly, sharing news from the past year, swapping stories and laughing at old jokes. Children ran from one activity to another, tugging their parents along, while the older generation settled near tables covered in colorful cloths, ready to watch the day's events. The farm had never seemed so lively. Clara felt a sense of belonging, a rare moment where she was not just helping but also being part of something bigger, something joyful. The first events of the festival began slowly. A few children participated in small races, their parents cheering them on. Others set up their craft booths, arranging fruits, vegetables, and handmade items with care. Clara helped her family organize their produce, placing the pumpkins and apples in neat rows, adjusting the position of a basket here and there. She could hear Tom talking to the other farmhands, his voice carrying easily across the crowd. Every so often, he would glance her way and grin, a silent acknowledgement that the morning was off to a good start. Despite the cheerful atmosphere, Clara felt a small knot of unease. She knew Tom could be unpredictable. While he was usually kind and helpful, his pranks sometimes caused small trouble, like tying a goat's lead to a fence post or hiding a watering can. Clara had experienced some of his jokes before, and while most of them were harmless, she had learned to be cautious. She wasn't worried for herself exactly, but she wanted to be ready just in case. Still, she didn't let it ruin her mood. Instead, she focused on helping, adjusting her dress slightly as she moved between the tables and displays. As the morning passed, the festival atmosphere grew louder. Music played from a small wooden stage where local musicians performed, their tunes cheerful and familiar. People gathered in groups, enjoying conversations, tasting baked goods, and examining the harvest displays. Clara noticed the way the sunlight made the colors of the fruits and vegetables shine, and for a moment she paused to take it all in. The day was beautiful, full of laughter, and she realized full of potential for small surprises. Tom, meanwhile, was walking around with a mischievous glint in his eye. He helped the children with games, adjusted some decorations, and occasionally whispered jokes to his friends. He noticed Clara again, this time closer to the display of baked goods. She was arranging small loaves of bread and jars of preserves, her hands moving carefully but quickly. He thought of a small joke he might play, not mean-spirited, just a tiny prank that would make the morning even more memorable. Clara noticed his glance and gave a playful, cautious smile. "Don't think of any tricks today," she said lightly, her voice soft but firm. Tom laughed, raising his hands in mock surrender. "No tricks," he promised, though the mischievous look in his eyes suggested otherwise. Both knew that he had a playful spirit, and she accepted it as part of his personality. At the same time, she felt ready to respond if he went too far. The festival continued to build momentum. More villagers arrived, bringing children and pets, adding to the bustling energy of the farm. Clara moved among the crowd, helping where needed and sharing small greetings with familiar faces. She felt a sense of pride, knowing that her family's display looked beautiful, neat, and inviting. She was also aware of Tom's presence nearby, a comforting yet slightly unpredictable factor in the day's events. By mid-morning, the farm was buzzing with life. Children played near the hay bales, families sampled fresh pies, and friends shared news of the year gone by. Clara moved gracefully among the crowd, her dress flowing gently, her hands busy but her eyes taking in the joy around her. She felt part of something important, part of a community that celebrated the simple pleasures of life. In that moment, the day seemed perfect, full of light, laughter, and possibilities. Clara didn't know what surprises awaited her, but she felt ready to face them. She felt a sense of anticipation, that small flutter of excitement that comes when something unexpected is just around the corner. The farm seemed alive, almost as if it knew that today would be remembered, not just for the festival itself, but for a small, unforgettable moment that would shock, amuse, and ultimately teach everyone a lesson in joy, respect, and laughter. And so, as the sun climbed higher in the sky, the farm continued to hum with life. Clara smiled to herself, adjusted her dress one last time, and stepped into the crowd, unaware that the day's most surprising moment was approaching, one that would leave her, Tom, and the entire community laughing, shocked, and talking about it for years to come. As the morning of the harvest festival progressed, the farm grew even livelier. People from the surrounding village arrived in small wagons, some walking along the dirt paths carrying baskets, while others led children by the hand. The air was filled with the sound of greetings, laughter, and occasional bursts of music from the wooden stage, where a group of local musicians played cheerful folk tunes. The smell of freshly baked bread, roasted corn, and sweet pies wafted across the festival area, making mouths water and hearts light with joy. Clara moved gracefully among the guests, helping her family organize the display of fruits, vegetables, and homemade preserves. Her hands were busy arranging apples into neat rows, straightening the small jars of honey, and adjusting the positioning of bright orange pumpkins. She wanted everything to look perfect, not just for her family, but for the entire community. A festival like this was more than just a celebration. It was a chance for neighbors to connect, for children to laugh freely, and for everyone to share the results of months of hard work on the farm. While Clara was occupied with her tasks, Tom was nearby, supervising some of the younger farmhands. He had a bright, mischievous sparkle in his eyes as he watched the activities around him. Tom loved these festival days. They were a break from the usual routine of farm chores, a chance to see the villagers smiling and interacting, and an opportunity for a little playful mischief. But he also knew when to draw the line. He was careful not to cause real trouble, understanding that people valued respect and kindness even more than humor. Tom's attention kept drifting back to Clara. She moved among the displays with quiet efficiency, her dress swaying lightly with each step. It was clear to anyone paying attention that she was slightly nervous. She wasn't used to being the center of attention, even in a friendly setting like this. Tom thought of the small pranks he had played in the past, most of them harmless, and wondered if he could bring a touch of fun to Clara's day without upsetting her. He wanted her to laugh, to feel included in the spirit of the festival, but he also knew the importance of not crossing boundaries. Clara, sensing his gaze occasionally, gave a polite smile but remained focused on her tasks. She had learned to handle Tom's playful nature over the years, respecting his intentions while quietly setting limits for herself. "Don't think of any tricks today," she whispered lightly when he came close, her tone teasing but firm. Tom laughed softly, raising his hands in mock surrender. "No tricks," he said, although the glimmer of mischief in his eyes hinted that he might still have something in mind. Both of them knew this dynamic well. Tom's playful energy and Clara's careful awareness created a balance that made their interactions entertaining without ever turning mean-spirited. Meanwhile, the festival continued to grow in excitement. The children were the first to take center stage, participating in small races and competitions. They ran across the fields with energy that seemed limitless, their laughter rising above the hum of the crowd. Parents cheered, waving their hands and calling out encouragement, while other villagers clapped for every child who crossed a finish line. Clara paused for a moment to watch a little girl trip over a pumpkin but get back up smiling, brushing herself off before finishing the race. It reminded Clara of her own childhood, and she felt a wave of warmth and nostalgia. At the same time, the display booths became a central point of activity. Neighbors admired the fruits, vegetables, baked goods, and handmade crafts. Clara's family booth, with its neatly arranged pumpkins, jars of preserves, and rows of shiny apples, drew several compliments. People admired the care she and her family had taken in preparing for the festival. Some asked for advice on how to grow such perfect pumpkins, while others simply smiled and nodded in appreciation. Clara felt proud, a quiet satisfaction warming her heart. But even in this bustling atmosphere, Clara couldn't shake a small sense of anticipation. She had noticed Tom moving closer several times, always with a playful look that hinted at some harmless trick he might try. She prepared herself mentally, ready to respond if necessary, but also curious about what he might do. The tension was light but noticeable, adding a sense of expectation to the cheerful morning. It was that kind of feeling that made festivals memorable, an ordinary day carrying a hint of unpredictability. Tom, for his part, was deliberating carefully. He knew Clara's warning not to prank her, yet he couldn't resist the idea of adding a small, funny surprise. He wandered around the crowd, helping with games and adjusting some of the decorations, all while keeping an eye on Clara. He considered several harmless options, perhaps hiding a small toy in a display or making a playful announcement that would get a laugh. But as he thought about it, he realized that the best approach would be subtle, something that wouldn't embarrass Clara but might still create a moment of surprise for the festival goers. Clara, meanwhile, continued her work, arranging the displays with care. She noticed villagers stopping by to admire the items, sometimes asking questions about the process of growing or preparing the produce. She answered politely, offering small tips and explanations. Her hands were busy, but her mind occasionally flicked to Tom. She couldn't help but wonder if he would stay true to his promise or if today would bring one of his playful antics. Despite the uncertainty, she smiled, deciding that even if a small prank came, she could handle it. The festival organizers announced the start of the first major event of the day, the Harvest Display Contest. Each family and participant was to present their best fruits, vegetables, or crafts to a panel of judges. The air buzzed with excitement and a hint of friendly competition. Clara's family had worked hard to make their display perfect, arranging every pumpkin, jar, and apple with precision. Clara stepped back for a moment to admire their work, feeling a surge of pride. The display looked beautiful, and she hoped the judges would appreciate the effort. Tom noticed her moment of pause and smiled to himself. He could see the pride in her expression and knew that any prank would have to be subtle and harmless. He didn't want to ruin her moment or embarrass her in front of the crowd. Instead, he walked closer with a light-hearted idea, something playful yet innocent. He approached carefully, his hands relaxed at his sides, a friendly smile on his face. Clara noticed him and braced herself, ready to respond to whatever he might do, while trying to maintain the cheerful spirit of the day. As the judging began, the crowd gathered around each display, commenting quietly among themselves. The children, though tired from the earlier games, remained nearby, curious about the results. Clara's family watched nervously as the judges inspected each item carefully, tapping the fruits, checking the jars, and nodding thoughtfully. Clara felt her heart beat faster, caught between excitement and tension. It was a moment she had anticipated for weeks, and now it was finally here. Tom stood nearby, pretending to be casual while watching Clara. He knew the importance of timing. Any prank would have to be executed at just the right moment to be funny rather than embarrassing. He shifted slightly, a playful energy running through him, but kept his distance to avoid startling her. Clara, sensing his presence, adjusted her dress lightly, reminding herself to stay composed. The tension was delicate, like a string pulled tight, ready to release in an unexpected way. The festival continued around them, with villagers chatting, children laughing, and the occasional announcement from the stage. Clara moved gracefully among the displays, interacting with the judges politely, all while keeping a small awareness of Tom. She had learned over time to anticipate his playful spirit, recognizing the signs before any action was taken. Tom, for his part, was smiling quietly, thinking of the right way to create a moment of harmless surprise. He wanted it to be funny, memorable, and above all, something that would make the festival day even more special. As the morning stretched on, the combination of cheerful activity, anticipation, and gentle tension created a unique atmosphere. The farm was alive with movement, laughter, and small surprises around every corner. Clara's attention shifted between her work and the people passing by, always aware but never fully anxious. Tom's mischievous energy lingered nearby, a quiet promise of something playful but still controlled and harmless. In that moment, everything seemed poised on the edge of a small adventure. The festival was more than just a gathering. It was a stage for unexpected events, a place where small surprises could turn ordinary moments into memories that would last a lifetime. Clara felt ready for anything, her excitement mingling with a careful sense of caution, and Tom waited for the perfect opportunity to add his touch of humor to the day. The sun climbed higher in the sky, casting a warm glow over the fields, the displays, and the crowd. Clara adjusted her dress again, smoothing it over her legs as she moved from one area to another. She exchanged smiles with neighbors, answered questions politely, and kept a steady eye on the judging process. The tension built subtly, a feeling that something memorable was about to happen, though neither she nor the crowd could yet know exactly what it would be. And so, as the farm buzzed with life and the festival reached its peak of excitement, Clara and Tom prepared for a moment that would surprise, amuse, and ultimately become a story the villagers would talk about for years to come. The balance of caution, pride, anticipation, and playful energy made the morning unforgettable, setting the stage for an event that would shock everyone, but in the most harmless, entertaining way possible. The morning had passed quickly, and the festival was now in full swing. The sun shone brightly over the farm, casting long, warm shadows across the fields and the display booths. Laughter and chatter filled the air, blending with the soft melodies from the wooden stage. Clara's family booth had attracted quite a crowd. Neighbors admired the carefully arranged pumpkins, jars of preserves, and shiny apples. Clara moved gracefully among the visitors, answering questions and accepting compliments, her hands busy but her mind alert to the playful presence of Tom nearby. Tom, as usual, was full of energy and mischief. He wandered near the crowd, helping wherever he could, but he kept glancing at Clara, a small smile playing on his lips. He had been thinking carefully about a little prank, a harmless, playful surprise that would make people laugh. It wasn't meant to embarrass anyone or cause trouble. His goal was simply to add a little extra fun to the festival, and perhaps create a story that everyone would remember fondly. Clara, aware of his gaze, remained cautious but not worried. She knew Tom's nature well. He had always been friendly, reliable, and kind-hearted, even in his jokes, but his tricks could be unpredictable, and she wanted to be ready. "Don't think of anything today," she whispered under her breath, adjusting her dress lightly as she moved through the crowd. Tom only smiled in response, raising his hands in mock surrender, though the playful twinkle in his eyes suggested he was far from finished. The first judging of the harvest displays had begun, and the villagers gathered closely around the booths. The judges examined each item with care, tapping pumpkins for ripeness, checking jars of preserves, and nodding thoughtfully as they moved from one display to the next. Clara watched them intently, her heart beating faster. Months of hard work had gone into preparing this display, and she hoped that the judges would notice every detail, every careful arrangement. The crowd murmured quietly, anticipation building as they waited to see which display would win first place. Tom waited too, but his focus was partly on the crowd and partly on Clara. He knew that if he timed it right, the little surprise he had planned could create a moment of light-hearted shock, something that would make the festival unforgettable. He had thought it through carefully, making sure it would not upset Clara or anyone else, but rather create laughter and amusement. The anticipation in his mind mirrored the excitement of the crowd, though only he knew exactly what was about to happen. Clara bent over the display for a moment, straightening a row of apples and smoothing the fabric covering the table. She didn't notice Tom approaching from behind. He moved quietly, careful not to startle her, and paused for just a second as he gauged the reactions of the people nearby. The children were distracted, playing near the hay bales, and most of the adults were focused on the judges. This was the perfect moment, Tom thought. He smiled to himself, his hands hovering lightly, ready to execute his plan with precision. And then it happened. In a moment that felt both sudden and deliberate, Tom gently lifted the hem of Clara's dress. It was meant to be a playful gesture, a small surprise, nothing more. But what he revealed beneath was completely unexpected, even to him. The crowd gasped, not in shock or disapproval, but in genuine surprise. Clara had sewn a small patch inside her dress, hidden from plain sight, depicting a humorous illustration of farm life. It showed animals in funny positions, a pig wearing a tiny hat, and a chicken balancing on a wheelbarrow. The detail and creativity of the patch were remarkable, and it was clear that Clara had done it herself. The villagers' reactions were immediate. Laughter erupted from several onlookers, children pointed excitedly, and even the older generation shook their heads in amused disbelief. Clara's eyes widened in surprise at first, then she quickly realized what had happened. Her face flushed with a mixture of embarrassment and amusement. She had not expected anyone, even Tom, to see the hidden patch so early in the day. But the humor of the design was undeniable, and soon she found herself smiling, even laughing softly. Tom froze for a moment, realizing the full effect of his actions. His intention had been to create a harmless surprise, but he had not anticipated that the hidden patch would be so elaborate and funny. He looked at Clara, whose initial shock had melted into laughter, and he felt a wave of relief. The moment was perfect, not embarrassing, not inappropriate, just playful and clever. The crowd continued to react, pointing out details of the patch and laughing at the creativity behind it. Tom's playful prank had unintentionally revealed Clara's hidden talent, turning the moment into something delightful for everyone. Clara straightened herself, brushing her hands against the sides of her dress to adjust it back into place. She laughed, shaking her head in disbelief. "I can't believe you did that," she said softly to Tom, her tone a mixture of mock exasperation and genuine amusement. Tom grinned, giving a small bow in response. "I promise it was meant to be funny," he said quietly. "I didn't know it was that." Clara nodded, her laughter softening. She appreciated the harmless intent behind Tom's actions and recognized that the moment had brought a lot of joy to the festival. The crowd, meanwhile, had moved closer to examine the patch more carefully. Children giggled at the sight of the pig in a hat, while adults complimented the cleverness of the design. People whispered among themselves, pointing out different elements and imagining the effort that must have gone into creating such a detailed and amusing patch. Clara watched their reactions, feeling a mixture of pride and amusement. Her small hidden artwork had become the highlight of the morning, and she realized that this little secret, carefully sewn inside her dress, had brought laughter and connection to everyone around her. Tom stepped aside slightly, giving Clara the space to regain her composure. He watched as she interacted with the crowd, explaining quietly that it was a hidden detail she had made herself. Her confidence grew with each smile and compliment she received. Even the children were fascinated, asking questions about how she had made it and what inspired her to include such funny animals. Clara answered patiently, her eyes sparkling with pride and joy. The patch had not just surprised the crowd, it had created a moment of genuine connection between her and the villagers, a shared experience of humor and creativity. The festival seemed to grow even more lively after the incident. People were smiling more broadly, the air buzzing with conversation about the hidden patch. Some of the villagers who had been quietly observing were now openly laughing, pointing out details they had missed at first. Children mimicked the animals in the illustration, running around pretending to balance on imaginary wheelbarrows or wear tiny hats. Clara's laughter joined theirs, a genuine, warm sound that echoed across the fields. Tom, relieved and pleased, felt a sense of satisfaction. His playful instinct had created joy, and the reaction of the community was better than he could have imagined. Despite the playful chaos, Clara maintained her composure. She straightened her dress, smoothed her hair, and addressed the crowd politely, thanking them for their kind words and attention. The moment had passed, but the laughter and stories it inspired lingered in the air. She felt a sense of pride, not only in the hidden patch itself but in the way she had handled the unexpected reveal. Her confidence had grown, and she realized that sometimes small surprises, even when unplanned, could create joy for everyone involved. Tom stayed close, offering a small, supportive smile. He had learned something too, that timing, care, and understanding boundaries could turn a simple joke into a memorable and positive moment. He had intended to create a harmless prank, but the result had exceeded his expectations. Clara's creativity, combined with his playful instinct, had produced something genuinely delightful. The farm, alive with laughter and chatter, seemed to celebrate the moment alongside them. As the morning continued, the story of the hidden patch spread. Villagers who had missed the reveal earlier stopped by to see it for themselves. Some asked Clara questions about her sewing, while others complimented the cleverness of the design. Children continued to play nearby, inspired by the whimsical animals, while adults shared smiles and whispered jokes about the clever little prank. The moment had become a highlight of the festival, something that people would remember and recount for years. Clara, reflecting on the experience, felt a mixture of relief and happiness. She had been caught off guard, yet the outcome was far better than she could have imagined. The playful moment had created laughter, connection, and a sense of shared joy among the villagers. She looked at Tom and nodded, silently acknowledging the harmless intent behind his actions. Tom grinned back, understanding her unspoken message. By mid-morning, the festival had settled into a rhythm. The crowd continued to enjoy the displays, the games, and the music, but now there was a shared sense of amusement that lingered from the playful incident. Clara's family booth remained popular, not just for the quality of the produce, but for the story that had unfolded there. Visitors smiled knowingly when they passed, exchanging small comments about the hidden patch and the clever reveal. And so, the shocking moment had passed, but its effect remained. It had created a memorable experience for Clara, Tom, and everyone at the festival. The balance of surprise, humor, and creativity had transformed a simple day into a story that would be told for years to come. The farm, the people, and the laughter all seemed to hold onto the memory, a testament to the power of small, unexpected moments to bring people together and create joy. After the playful moment with the hidden patch, the festival carried on, but the atmosphere had subtly shifted. What had started as a typical harvest day had turned into a story everyone would remember. Clara, still adjusting her dress and smoothing her hair, felt a mixture of relief, pride, and amusement. The initial shock of the reveal had faded, replaced by laughter, admiration, and a sense of connection with the community. She realized that what could have been embarrassing had instead become one of the most delightful experiences of her life. Clara took a deep breath and began to move among the crowd, explaining the patch to curious villagers. She smiled as she answered questions about her sewing, about the inspiration behind the playful animals, and about how long it had taken her to create it. Children listened with wide eyes, fascinated by the idea that such a funny detail could be hidden under a dress. Some tried to imitate the illustrations by drawing their own little pictures in the dirt, while others giggled at the story of how Tom had revealed it. Adults, meanwhile, complimented her creativity and applauded her for handling the surprise with grace and humor. Tom stayed close but gave Clara the space to engage with the crowd. He had intended the moment to be lighthearted, and now that it had unfolded, he felt a mixture of pride and relief. Pride because his playful instinct had helped reveal something remarkable, and relief because Clara had reacted so well. He could see the warmth and amusement in her eyes, and it reassured him that the prank had been received in the spirit he had intended. He made a mental note to remember this moment as one of the best outcomes of his playful ideas. The villagers' reactions were varied, but all were positive. Some laughed openly, pointing at the hidden patch, while others whispered among themselves, amazed at the cleverness and humor it contained. Even those who had been skeptical about Tom's intentions earlier smiled and nodded, appreciating the harmless fun. The festival, which had already been lively, now carried an added energy, a shared sense of amusement that connected everyone present. It was a reminder that joy often came from the simplest, most unexpected moments. Clara's family watched the scene unfold with a mixture of surprise and delight. Her mother, who had been arranging the preserves, shook her head in disbelief and laughed softly. "I didn't see that coming," she whispered to Clara's father. Her younger brother, still full of energy, bounced up and down, pointing at the little pig in the hat on the patch and laughing. Clara's father chuckled quietly, impressed by his daughter's creativity and pleased with the way she had managed the situation. The family shared quiet smiles, proud of the way Clara had turned what could have been an awkward moment into something positive. As the laughter continued, Clara and Tom stepped aside for a moment. Clara looked at him, her eyes sparkling with a mixture of amusement and understanding. "I have to admit," she said softly, "that was actually funny. I didn't expect anyone to see it, especially you." Tom grinned, shrugging lightly. "I promise it wasn't meant to embarrass you," he said. "I just thought it would be a harmless surprise for everyone. I didn't know it would be this good." Clara laughed softly, shaking her head. "Well, it certainly got everyone's attention," she replied. Their conversation, quiet and respectful, highlighted the trust and understanding between them, a connection built over years of shared experiences and playful interactions. The festival continued with games and competitions, but now there was an added sense of camaraderie among the villagers. People who had been strangers earlier were now laughing together, sharing in the story of Clara's hidden patch. Children continued to play near the hay bales, acting out the scenes from the illustrations, while adults whispered jokes and comments about the cleverness of the surprise. The moment had created a shared memory, something that everyone could enjoy and talk about long after the festival ended. Clara, feeling more confident, began to engage more openly with the crowd. She answered questions about the patch, explained how she had made it, and even gave a few tips on sewing to those who were interested. Her demeanor was calm, yet lively, and the villagers responded with warmth and interest. She realized that this small, unexpected moment had given her a boost in confidence. She could now see that a playful surprise, handled with grace, could become a positive experience for everyone involved. Tom, observing from nearby, felt a sense of pride as well. He had intended the moment to be lighthearted, and it had achieved more than he could have hoped. It had created laughter, admiration, and a story that the community would share for years. He realized that a simple act, when done with care and respect, could bring people together in a way that nothing else could. He smiled quietly to himself, feeling satisfied that his playful nature had contributed to the joy of the day without causing harm or discomfort. As the festival wore on, Clara's family continued to interact with visitors. People complimented the quality of the produce, the neatness of the displays, and the creativity of the hidden patch. Children asked for stories about the animals, and some even tried to guess what other surprises might be hidden in the display. Clara responded with patience and humor, answering questions and sharing small anecdotes. The atmosphere was light, joyful, and filled with a sense of connection that made the farm feel like the heart of the community. The judges of the harvest display moved on to examine other booths, but the story of Clara's hidden patch lingered in the minds of the villagers. People continued to whisper and laugh quietly, sharing the tale with those who had arrived later or had been distracted during the reveal. The patch had become a symbol of creativity, humor, and the unexpected joys that made life memorable. It reminded everyone present that even small, hidden details could have a big impact when revealed thoughtfully. Clara took a moment to reflect on the incident. She realized that she had been caught off guard, but the outcome had been far better than she could have imagined. The playful reveal had created laughter, connection, and admiration, and she felt proud of her ability to handle the situation gracefully. It was a lesson in confidence, creativity, and the value of being prepared for the unexpected. She smiled to herself, appreciating the way a small detail combined with a harmless prank had turned an ordinary day into something extraordinary. Tom, standing nearby, watched as Clara interacted with the crowd. He noticed the way her confidence had grown, the way her smile had become more genuine, and the way people responded warmly to her explanations. He realized that his playful instinct, combined with Clara's creativity and poise, had created a perfect moment. It had been a lesson for him as well, that even a joke could have a positive impact when approached with care and understanding. As the festival continued into the afternoon, the energy remained high. Children played games, families shared meals, and neighbors continued to chat and laugh together. The story of the hidden patch and the playful reveal had become a central topic of conversation, adding to the overall joy of the day. Clara moved among the crowd with ease, her confidence growing with each interaction. She felt proud not just of the patch itself, but of the way she had handled the moment, turning a potential embarrassment into a memorable experience. Tom stayed nearby, helping with games, adjusting decorations, and occasionally glancing at Clara to make sure she was comfortable. He had learned an important lesson about timing, boundaries, and the power of a playful gesture. He also realized that the best moments often came unexpectedly, when careful planning met spontaneity and creativity. The balance between humor and respect had created a memorable experience for everyone, and he felt grateful to have been part of it. By late afternoon, the festival began to wind down. The crowd thinned slightly, but the laughter and stories from the morning continued to echo across the fields. Children recounted the events to their parents, neighbors discussed the cleverness of the hidden patch, and Clara's family received compliments on both the produce and the creativity behind the design. The day had been filled with joy, connection, and a small, harmless shock that had turned into the highlight of the festival. Clara and Tom finally found a quiet moment to talk. Clara laughed softly, shaking her head. "I still can't believe you did that," she said. Tom smiled, shrugging. "I just wanted to make the day more fun," he replied. Clara nodded, smiling warmly. "Well, you succeeded," she said. Their conversation was quiet but meaningful, a moment of understanding and appreciation that reflected the connection they shared. As the sun began to dip toward the horizon, casting long, golden shadows across the farm, Clara and Tom stood together, watching the remaining villagers pack up and say their goodbyes. The laughter and stories of the day lingered in the air, a reminder of the unexpected joys that could come from small, thoughtful surprises. Clara felt a deep sense of satisfaction, knowing that she had handled the moment with grace and humor, and that the community had responded with warmth and laughter. The day had been more than just a festival. It had been a lesson in creativity, connection, and the value of shared experiences. The playful reveal of the hidden patch had brought people together, inspired laughter, and created a story that would be remembered for years. Clara and Tom, standing side by side, understood that the moment had strengthened their connection, taught them important lessons, and added a touch of joy to everyone's day. And so, as the farm grew quiet with the setting sun, Clara and Tom reflected on the events of the day. They had experienced a small shock, laughter, and connection, all woven into the fabric of an ordinary festival day. The lessons learned, the importance of respect, the joy of creativity, and the power of humor would stay with them, shaping the way they approached future moments and interactions. The day had been unforgettable, not because of grand gestures or extraordinary events, but because of a simple, playful moment that had brought light, laughter, and warmth to everyone involved. As the afternoon faded into evening, the festival began to wind down. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long, golden shadows across the fields and giving the farm a soft, warm glow. Children were tired from running and playing, their cheeks flushed with excitement and laughter. Adults began to pack up their displays, carefully gathering fruits, vegetables, and baked goods, while neighbors exchanged last words and farewells. The energy of the day had shifted from lively excitement to calm satisfaction, but the story of Clara's hidden patch still lingered in the minds of everyone who had seen it. Clara walked slowly among the remaining visitors, helping where she could. She felt a quiet sense of pride and happiness. The playful reveal of her hidden patch had created a moment that everyone would remember, and she realized it had also strengthened her confidence. She smiled as she answered questions from a few villagers who had stayed late, explaining how she had made the patch and what had inspired her to include the funny animals. Her hands moved skillfully, but her eyes sparkled with the warmth of genuine satisfaction. Tom followed her at a short distance, helping carry empty baskets and tidying the area. He watched Clara with quiet admiration, noticing the way she had handled the surprise with grace, humor, and poise. What had started as a small prank on his part had turned into something far bigger, a shared moment of joy and laughter that had brought people together. He realized that even the simplest gestures, when done thoughtfully, could have a lasting impact. He felt proud, not only of the moment he had created, but also of Clara's ability to turn it into something memorable for everyone. The villagers lingered in small groups, talking quietly about the events of the day. Some laughed again as they recounted the images of the animals on Clara's patch, others complimented her creativity, and a few exchanged amused whispers about Tom's playful timing. Even the festival organizers, who had been busy with logistics all day, paused for a moment to smile at the clever reveal. The hidden patch had become the highlight of the day, a story that would be told and retold at future festivals. Clara listened to the laughter around her and felt a warm sense of belonging. She had been part of something that brought the entire community together. Clara's family packed their booth carefully, ensuring nothing was left behind. Her mother smiled at her, a mixture of pride and amusement in her eyes. "You handled that very well," she said quietly. Clara nodded, still smiling, and replied, "I didn't expect it, but I think it turned out better than I imagined." Her younger brother bounced around, reenacting scenes from the hidden patch for the remaining children, while her father chuckled quietly at the joy and creativity that had emerged from a simple, playful moment. Tom stepped forward, offering to help with the final cleanup. "Are you all right?" he asked Clara, a note of concern in his voice. "I hope I didn't cause too much trouble with my little prank." Clara shook her head, laughing softly. "Not at all," she said. "If anything, it made the festival more memorable. You just caught me completely off guard." They shared a quiet smile, a subtle acknowledgement of trust, understanding, and friendship. The playful moment had strengthened their bond, showing that humor, when paired with respect, could create joy rather than discomfort. As the festival grounds emptied, Clara and Tom found a quiet spot near the edge of the field, sitting on a wooden bench beneath a large oak tree. The sun was now low, casting long shadows and painting the sky with shades of pink and gold. Clara exhaled, feeling the calm after the excitement of the day. "I think this will be a story people talk about for years," she said softly. Tom chuckled. "I have a feeling you're right," he replied. "But it's a good story, not a bad one. It made everyone laugh, and you handled it perfectly." Clara nodded, appreciating the balance between playful mischief and thoughtful respect that had made the moment so special. The conversation turned reflective. Clara thought about how the day had unfolded, the anticipation of the festival, the tension with Tom's playful energy, and the ultimate reveal of her hidden patch. She realized that even small surprises, when approached with humor and understanding, could have a positive impact. It had been a lesson in patience, confidence, and the joy of shared experiences. Tom listened quietly, agreeing with her thoughts, recognizing that the day had taught him something as well, that timing, care, and respect were essential in any interaction, even playful ones. The warmth of the evening sun, combined with the gentle sounds of nature, the chirping of crickets, the rustling of leaves, and the distant laughter of children heading home, created a perfect moment of reflection. Clara looked at Tom and smiled. "You know," she said softly, "I think the patch was meant to be seen eventually, but I didn't expect it to be revealed in such a memorable way." Tom laughed quietly. "Sometimes the best moments happen unexpectedly," he said. "I just happened to be in the right place at the right time." They shared a quiet laugh together, feeling a sense of connection and understanding that went beyond words. As the last villagers left the farm, Clara and Tom helped their families pack the remaining produce and supplies into wagons. The farm was slowly returning to its usual quiet state, but the laughter and joy of the day lingered in the air. Clara felt a deep sense of satisfaction, not just because of the playful reveal, but because the day had brought people together, strengthened friendships, and created memories that would last far beyond the festival. Tom, walking beside her, felt the same. The day had been a success in every way, blending fun, creativity, and connection into a perfect experience. By the time the sun set completely, the farm was peaceful again. The warm glow of twilight bathed the fields in soft light, and the gentle breeze carried the scent of fresh earth and flowers. Clara stood for a moment, looking out across the fields, reflecting on the day. She thought about the playful moment with Tom, the laughter of the villagers, and the way the hidden patch had become a source of joy and connection. She realized that even small, unexpected events could leave a lasting impact, turning ordinary days into extraordinary memories. Tom joined her, carrying the last of the baskets. "It's been quite a day," he said quietly. Clara nodded, smiling. "Yes, it has. And I think it's a day I'll remember for a long time." They walked together toward the farmhouse, talking quietly about the events of the day, sharing thoughts and laughing softly at the playful chaos that had unfolded earlier. The moment was peaceful, reflective, and full of a warm sense of accomplishment. Back at the farmhouse, the family gathered in the kitchen, sharing a simple meal after the long day. The mood was calm but cheerful, filled with quiet conversation and soft laughter. Clara's mother commented on the cleverness of the hidden patch. Her father complimented her organization and composure, and her younger brother recounted the funniest parts for everyone to hear. Tom joined the family for a moment, smiling and contributing to the conversation, enjoying the warmth and camaraderie that had developed from the day's events. As night fell and the stars appeared in the sky, Clara reflected on the lessons of the festival. She realized that the playful moment with Tom had been more than just a surprise. It had been an opportunity to connect with others, show confidence, and embrace creativity. She felt proud of how she had handled it, and grateful for the way the community had responded with laughter and kindness. Tom, watching her quietly, felt a similar sense of satisfaction, understanding that respect, timing, and humor could create moments that were meaningful, memorable, and joyful. Finally, the farm grew quiet. The children had gone home, the villagers had returned to their own houses, and the fields were bathed in the soft glow of moonlight. Clara and Tom sat on the porch for a few moments, enjoying the calm and reflecting on the day. "I think we made today unforgettable," Clara said softly. Tom nodded, smiling. "Yes, we did, and it's all because of a little surprise and a lot of creativity." They laughed quietly together, feeling the warmth of connection, understanding, and shared experience. The day had ended, but its memory would stay with everyone who had been there. The playful reveal, the laughter, the joy of the festival, and the shared experiences had created a story that would be told and remembered for years. Clara felt a deep sense of satisfaction, knowing that even a small, unexpected moment could bring people together, create happiness, and leave a lasting impression. Tom felt the same, proud that his playful gesture had been part of something positive and memorable. As Clara finally prepared to head inside for the night, she looked out across the farm one last time. The fields were quiet, the displays had been packed away, and the laughter of the day lingered only in memory. She felt a warm sense of gratitude for her family, for the community, and for the small, playful moment that had brought everyone together. Tom stood beside her, smiling, and together they watched the stars appear in the sky. A quiet, peaceful ending to a day that had been filled with joy, surprise, and connection. And so, the story of the hidden patch, the playful reveal, and the laughter it inspired came to a close. What had begun as a simple harvest festival had transformed into a day of shared happiness, creativity, and memorable moments. Clara and Tom had both learned something important about trust, timing, and the power of small, thoughtful actions. The villagers would remember the day not just for the festival, but for the playful, harmless shock that had turned into the highlight of the event, a story to be shared and laughed over for many years to come.